Dear students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor P. Bhaskar Reddy, Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati. In the present module of the paper Outlines of Indian History, we are going to learn about the socio-cultural awakening in India. You all know that the British conquest of India paved the way for the spread of Western education, culture, their ideas and humanism. The spread of Western culture helped for finding the weakness of the Indian society and its social problems. The spread of education and the weakness of the society finally gave stimulation for the rise of socio-cultural awakening in the 19th century. The learning objectives of the module are to understand the social problems of India, the impact of Western education and culture on renaissance of the Indian society, Indian Renaissance inspired by the Western concept of reason, equality and liberty, the efforts made to find solutions to such problems. With these objectives, let us start our discussion. Before the starting of the social problems, one thing you have to remember, in this module, we are concentrating only on the social problems which were prevailed in the 19th century and what efforts made by the then British government and social reformers to prevent or to remove that institutions that can only be discussed here. In the next module, we can discuss elaborately the different socio-religious movements and their importance in history. Regarding the social problems of the 19th century are, in the 19th century, the Indian society was plagued by various social problems. Religious superstitions were prevalent, women were subject to control and hardly they had any right in the society. The practices like sati, child infanticide, child marriage and ban on remarriage of widows compounded their problems. Persons from lower castes were facing untouchability and discrimination. In this situation, social and cultural awakening in India was a result of Indian Renaissance that was inspired by the Western concept of reason, equality and liberty. Particularly, the consolidation of British authority in the 18th and 19th centuries helped introduction of a series of reforms to prevent or to control such social evils. Among the events and social problems of the 19th century, the sati system is one of the problem. Regarding the sati is concerned, it is described as a Hindu custom in India in which the widow was burnt to ashes on her dead husband's pyre. In the early years of 19th century, sati became popular practice in the Bengal, though there was a continuous evidences about the practice of sati since the day of Greeks when they found the first sati. It continued up to the advent of Europeans. A large number of satis took place in Hooghly, Nadia, Burdwan of Calcutta province, which was headed by Britishers. The practice was existed not only in Bengal, but it was prevalent in all parts of the country, in all castes and classes. Particularly, the prince families of various Indian provinces and the sense of pride and their heroism elevated sati into noble act. The causes for the sati are many. There are so many problems which faced by the women in the Indian society is concerned from since the dawn of Indian society up to the medieval ages. But particularly in the 19th century, the position of women in Hindu system is very pathetic. The plurality of wives are there in some cases. The prospect of enforced austerity after the husband demise is another cause. The social convention, it is a natural cause. A strong local feeling in favor of the right, it was one of the important cause for the sati. The malevolent intentions of the Brahmins, it is also continued a tradition of that particular group. The antiquity and adoration of the practice is the another one. Thus, several factors and several causes related to women, it prompted the continuation of the sati in Indian society, and it became one of the evil continued up to the advent of Europeans. Now, the Europeans, by the end of 18th century, the practice had been banned in the territories held by some European powers. Particularly, the Portuguese banned the practice in Goa by about 1515 itself. Then, the Dutch and French banned it in Chinsura and Pondicherry. However, the Britishers, who by then ruled much of their subcontinent, permitted the sati until the 19th century. The British government also later on passed several acts related to sati practice and its prevalence. The regulation of 1812 was the earliest measure to prevent a widow from burning herself if she was pregnant or pubertal, mother of an infant, or drugged by her relatives. Then, after that, the government also taken several measures to control or to prevent the sati. Particularly, during the time of Lord Hastings, the Viceroy asked the stringent intervention by the local authorities through a circular issued in the year 1817. According to it, only a legal wedded wife was permitted to commit sati and not concubines. Thus, prevention of the illegal sati formed part of the government policy during the time of Lord Hastings. The Court of Directors also could have tried to end the practice, but they left to the discretion of the Governor Generals who are heading the Indian provinces. However, the beginning of an epochal era for its heralded with the advent of the great social reformer Raja Ram Mohan Rai and his massive movements for the modernization of India. In his attempts to prevent the sati, Raja Ram published in his tracts in the year 1880 and 1820, making the point that the right of sati was not enjoyed by the Shastras. However, there was a pro for the sati which opposed the policies of Raja Ram Mohan Rai. However, his efforts resulted for prevention of sati in the later course of time. The arrival of Lord William Bentinck as Viceroy was another important event. During his reign, he declared that on consideration of humanity, all those participating in sati were guilty of little short of crime of multiple murder. The British, due to the efforts of Raja Ram Mohan Rai, outlawed this custom in the year 1829. This was an important progress in the prevention of sati. He passed the 27th regulation on December 4th, 1829 by declaring the practice of sati or burning alive the widow of Hindus illegal and punishable by criminal courts. Thus, similar measures after William Bentinck, legislation measures were later enacted in various provinces of the Britishers, particularly in Bombay and Madras. Another problem of the society during the 19th century is the infanticide, that is, killing of the babies in tender ages. The British discovered the female infanticides in India in 1789 itself. Jonathan Duncan, the then resident in Benares province, found during his tour for setting the revenues acquired by the Raja of Rajput in Jaipur that they found that they destroyed their female children. Thereafter, the British discovered female infanticides in various parts of northern, western and other provinces of Indian subcontinent. It is said to be that more infanticides were noticed by Sir John Malcolm in Malwa among the Rajput chiefs of higher classes. The reason for the prevalence of this system in the Rajput chiefs is they felt that the female baby is a burden for them for their survival. Because of that, they used this practice extensively in that Rajput provinces. The act of infanticide was performed in the secrecy mode through stagnation or starvation of a child or application of accord to the nipples of the sucked mother. This was the method where many of the women used for the infanticide. The existence of infanticide was mainly due to the deplorable position of women. This already we have discussed in the causes. from the date of first discovery of the practice of this infanticide by the British till the passing of the Female Infanticide Act in March 1870 by the Viceroy's Council. This social problem was continued and it was a subject of elaborate correspondence and reports between the governors of Indian province and the British government of London. The British officers, after noticing this type of infanticide, they started the regulation of various acts to prevent the infanticide. Accordingly, since infanticide had no religious sanction up to this period, the British government evolved a clear-cut policy in this regard. Particularly in Bengal and Western India, agreements were made with local chieftains and landlords, and also literature on criminality of the right was circulated. Prizes were given or offered for anti-infanticide essays and fines were imposed for violating the agreements. Accordingly, the Britishers started issuing of regulations to prevent the infanticide. Particularly the Bengal regulation of 1795 declared that infanticide is considered to be murder. Though the regulation of 1795 and regulation 3 of 1804 declared this practice illegal, it was continued even further. Later, hence, William Bentinck took vigorous steps to suppress this inhuman crime, and even he issued prompt orders to stop the ritual of offering child sacrifices at special occasions and also in various parts of the country. On November 28, 1843, the Bombay government informed the Court of Directors that not a single instance of infanticide came to the notice of political agent in 1841. Thus, it itself shows that the declining of the infanticide attempts due to the measures taken by the British government. The Female Infanticide Bill was later introduced in the Viceroy's Council in January 1870. Thus, by all these measures taken by the British government, majority of the infanticides come down and it was removed from the social practices. Thus, the British's efforts resulted the prevention of infanticide. Now, we may shift to discussion on another aspect, the slavery. Regarding the slavery is concerned, various factors contributed to the growth of slavery system in India. It is known that from the day India became a target of Muslim raiders, people began to be enslaved, the captives, in various services. Later, the Europeans, Portuguese, Dutch, French, and also Arabs, and several foreign European seafaring people and traders purchased these people and collected children of both sexes, and they were exported them and they forced to work as slaves. During the British period, slavery was practiced in two types. The one is domestic and other is predial. To this could be added the Nautch girls and prostitutes prevalent particularly in some areas of Malwa, Malabar, Dhaka, that is in Bangladesh, Delhi, and other presidencies of Bengal and Madras. Predial slavery particularly existed in Bengal, Madras, Assam, Coorg, and southern Bombay. By this, in the year 1812, it was estimated that 1/6 of the population of Sylhet of Bangladesh consisting of slaves. There were mostly descendants of insolvent debtors. Traffic in slaves was attacked by Cornwallis for the first time with a proclamation of 1718 to stop this type of carrying slaves to the foreign countries. Similar proclamation was issued by the Madras government in the next year 1790. In the year 1811, the Regulation 10 was passed by the Bengal government for preventing the importing of slaves either by land or sea into any of the territories under the presidency of Fort William, Calcutta. This regulation was given wide publicity and the same was communicated to the local governments of Bombay, Java, the Prince of Wales Islands, Mauritius and Ceylon, and also the resident of Port Marlborough. Traders were imported slaves to British territory were apprehended, especially those from the hill country or tribal communities. Thus, slavery began to disappear in British India, to which alone the Act of 1843 applied, and all trade and possession of slaves was finally prohibited by the Penal Code of 1860. Another social evil and problem that was prevalent in the society of the age was the child marriage. That is, marrying a young girl into age-old man. This system was prevailed in Indian tradition from the beginning of its culture, and it continued up to the age of the Britishers. The government did not interfere in the matters relating to child marriage, polygamy, and also widow marriages for some time. However, the missionary zeal for social reforms, Western ideas of humanitarianism and equality, religious movements, the Brahma Samaj and Arya Samaj, and the movements of secular character led to prohibition of this child marriage in the beginning stages. However, the government also given a support in the later course of time. In the year 1860, an act was passed to deal with the age of consent and consummation. It raised the age for consummation of marriage in the case of girls to 10. In the year 1891, the age of consent was raised to 12 for girls. Later in the year 1925, that age was raised to 13 for married girls and 14 for unmarried ones. In the year 1929, the Child Marriage Restraint Act, known as the Sharada Bill, was passed in the government. Accordingly, it penalized the parties to marriage where the girl was below 14 or the boy below of 18 years of age got married. The law came into force only in the year 1930. According to that, the act could not be effectively implemented due to the lack of machinery for enforcing its provisions and unwilling of the people. Finally, by the Marriage Act of 1955, the minimum age limit for the bridegroom was fixed at 18 years and for the bride at 15. Thus, in the 19th century, during the time of the Britishers, due to the social awakening, the several attempts were made by the organizations as well as the British government also issued a series of acts to preventing the child marriages, and also they emphasized the age for bride and bridegroom. This resulted for the prevention of the child marriages in the British period. Now we may come to the discussion on joint family. The joint family system is the most important pattern of family life in the villages, being based on agriculture. But their success during the British rule was very limited because the legislative measures on inheritance and the marriage rights of women have enabled women to emerge as an individual personality and exercised a tremendous influence on the joint family and carried forward slowly the work of disintegration originally started by the judiciary in its administration of Hindu law. Due to the force of migrations, the extension of communities and the growth of an individual's spirit, the institution of joint family no longer remained inviolate during the British period. Regarding the castes and professions and disparities among the various groups of the Indian society, the British government not taken much measures to prevent the caste disparities and because reasons are varied. However, the British by and large maintained neutrality in the matters of caste. They regarded it as steel frame of Hinduism. Particularly, the pressure of Western ideas and missionary propaganda brought several changes in the castes from 19th century onwards. The legislation having bearing on the caste system was the Caste Debilities Removal Act 1850. According to it, it protected converts either to Christianity or Islam from losing rights due to the change of religion. The missionary activities, particularly the Arya Samaj, the deprived classes from missions, the servants of Indian society and the Indian National Conference mobilized public opinion and took various measures for the eradication of untouchability. Another practice prevailed in the Indian society was the widow. Widows, they continued without a marriage, even they lost their husbands in the early age. There was no provision of remarrying of that young girl who lost their husband in later course of time. However, there were attempts made by the reformers even in this institution to get the possibility of widows to get married. In persuasion of the widow marriages, Raja Ram Mohan Rai was the first person who taken up this cause. He started an agitation for widow marriage in the beginnings of the 19th century. Later, it culminated in a legislation brought forward by Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar. It is known that Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar raised a voice for the first time against the practice of this getting of widow remarriage. Accordingly, Hindu Remarriage Act was passed in the year 1856. Later, a widow marriage association was started in the year 1861 in the Bombay Presidency. The Arya Samaj also took up the issue of remarriage of widows on its list of reforms. So far, we discussed about various social problems that were prevalent in the Indian society, particularly in the beginnings of the 19th century, and how the missionaries, reformers, and elite group worked for the prevention of that all these practices, and the government support in making the legislations to end that practices. In that, it is known that the 19th century is the era of social reformers. Now, we may shift to who are the social reformers of this age and what is their place in bringing social awakening in India in brief. The 19th century was a great period in social and cultural reform. The Indian reformers of the 19th century did a lot to build a better society and to eradicate the social practices that prevailed in the age. The social reform movements arose among all communities of the Indian people, irrespective of caste, color, and creed. All these reformers worked for the abolition of caste, untouchability, Parda system, sati, child marriage, social inequalities, and illiteracy. The following are the kingpins of the Renaissance movement in the 19th century. They are Raja Ram Mohan Rai, who was considered as the first modern leader of India; Devendranath Tagore, the propagator of Rai ideas; Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar, a man of shining intellect and sterling character; Dayananda Saraswati, the founder of Arya Samaj; Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, a saint person; Swami Vivekananda, an ambassador of India. All these reformers and their enlightenment thinking to improve the social practices and evils, it resulted much awakening not only in social practices, but it paved the way for the growth of national awakening among the Indian people. Now, we may shift to our discussion on another theme: what factors contributed for this enlightenment? Among the various factors that contributed for this socio-cultural awakening, the spread of Western education is an important one, and what is its impact we may discuss now. The spread of Western education in India was the result of the efforts made by the Christian missionaries, the natives, and also to some extent by the government through its departments. The introduction of English education and the constant flow of Western ideas became responsible for inculcating a new spirit and thought in India. The new educational system opened new vistas of life to the people of all sections. In every sphere of life, the impact of the West was visible, and its influence is particularly more in the 19th century onwards. The Western education broke the intellectual monopoly of the Brahmins. The non-Brahmin caste with the background of Western education entered the British administrative services and attained a respectable place in the social order also. These educated middle class even provided leadership for various movements in the country. Thus, with the advent of the British East India Company and the spread of Western education, it brought a revolutionary change in the thinking of the leaders of the India, and they tried to eradicate the social evils considering the idealism, humanism and various grounds. Thus, the Western education and culture paved the way for socio-cultural awakening in India. Besides that, the development of railways in India during the same period is another important factor for the socio-cultural awakening and various promotions of the country. Now we may shift to discuss the railways and their role in socio-cultural and economic development. The British built railways, it is known that in India, in order to intermesh the economies of the two countries. The building of railways in India brought about unintended as well as hoped for consequences in economic, political and military front. The railways no doubt tied the different parts of India together more closely than ever before in the previous period. Thus, the modern means of communication and transport played an important role in modernizing India and promoting a sense of unity, brotherhood and helped in the growth of not only the socio-cultural awakening, and it paved the way for the rise of national concept and nationalism in the 20th century. Now we may shift to discuss about another important key factor which brought social awakening, the role of press. You know that the role of press is the key role in highlighting their ideas among the people, and they were the key promoters for the spreading of their thought-provoking ideas among the masses. The establishment of newspapers became a powerful factor in bringing social awakening in the modern India. In fact, it had become a powerful institution in molding the public opinion also. The press ably supplemented national literature in contributing the growth of political, social and economic consciousness among various sections of the people. It was their mission to educate the people politically, help them to assimilate progressive ideas and carry to them doctrines of great political thinkers of West. Thus, the press played a key role not only in the propagation of ideas, they were the promoters who contributed much for bringing awareness among the peoples of the society. They propagated the topics like liberty, democracy, self-government, nationalism, and they were discussed and examined in their columns. In the next place, it was their constant effort to expose the misdeeds of the government and also subject its wrong policies to merciless criticism. They made the people conscious of their rights and freedoms and fearlessly advocated popular causes among the people. In this module, up to this point, we have highlighted the social problems or social evils that were practiced in Indian society at the middle of the 18th and the beginnings of 19th century, and how they were brought to light for the eradication because of the impact of Western education and the government measures to control it. Particularly, the impact of the socio-religious movements, the uprising of 1857, the spread of Western education, the emergence of various associations, modern means of communication and transport systems, the role of press, the rise of middle class intellectuals, emergence of restless and dynamic leaders were responsible for the growth of public awakening and the rise of Indian nationalism in 19th century era. With this discussion, I hope that you have understood about various problems that were prevalent in the Indian society in the 19th century and the attempts made by the social reformers for its eradication and the government acts in controlling of it. Though the module is designed in a brief to know about the social problems and measures taken for preventing it. The elaborate discussion will be made the contribution by the social reformers in the name of movements in the next module. For more details, please see the e-text and also the other components of the module. Thank you.